world's a stage. And all the men and women, merely players.
They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his lifetime plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. First the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms.
And then the whining schoolboy, with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress' eyebrow.
And a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honour, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly with good capon lined, eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays his part.
The 6 age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on the nose and pouch on his side, his youthful hose well saved, well too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice, turning toward childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound.
Last scene of all that ends this strange, eventful history, the second childishness, mere oblivion.
Son's teeth,
Son's eyes,
son's taste,
Son's everything.
If there is one figure whose name and plays are known to those in the general public, it is William Shakespeare. Shakespeare was born in 1564 in Stratford-upon-Avon to parents John and Mary. As William's father John was a local merchant, it meant that young William was able to attend the local grammar school, and it was there that he would learn the skills which would set him up to become one of the most popular dramatists for the stage during his lifetime and for generations to come. In this special film, we'll see performances of different scenes from Shakespeare's work which tie into the 7 stages of man, as well as 2 examples of classical Greek drama. So, without further ado, your humble patience pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play. The imagery of childhood echoes throughout many of the bard's writings, and in this particular scene from The Winter's Tale, Act 2, Scene 1, the character of Hermione and her first ladies are playing of her young son Mamilius. Hermione is looking at keeping her son happy, while all the while she is exhausted by her 9 months of pregnancy.
Take the boy to you, he so troubles me, 'tis past enduring. Come, my gracious lord.
Shall I be your playfellow?
No, I'll none of you.
Why, my sweet lord?
Because you will kiss me hard and speak to me as if I were a baby still. I love you better.
Oh, and why so, my lord?
Not for because your brows are blacker. Yet some women, they say, become black brows best. So there not be too much hair there, but in a semicircle or a half moon made with a pen.
Who taught you this?
I learnt it out of women's faces. Now pray, what colour are your eyebrows?
Oh. Blue. My lord.
Nay, that is a mock. I've seen a lady's nose. That has been blue, but not her eyebrows.
Hark ye. The Queen, your mother, rounds apace. We shall present our services to a fine new prince one of these days, and then you'd wanton with us if we would have you.
She is spread of late into a goodly bulk. Good time encounter her.
What wisdom stirs amongst you? Come, sir, now I am for you again. Pray you, sit by us and tells a tale.
Merry or sad shalt be,
As merry as you will.
but a sad tale's best for winter. Oh, I have one of sprites and goblins.
Let's have that, good sir. Come on, sit down, come on and do your best to fright me with your sprites. You're powerful at it.
There was a man.
Nay, come, sit down, then on.
Dwelt by a churchyard. I shall speak it softly, yonder crickets do not hear it.
Come on then, and give it me in mine ear.
We recommend seeing The Winter's Tale in full, as not only does it show Shakespeare at the pinnacle of his career, but it also has one of the best stage directions of any play ever written. Exit stage left, pursued by bear. Now we leave the child in his infancy, for he has grown up and has become the student, full of uncertainties and cynicism about the world. Because for him, something is rotten in the state of Denmark. When we think of Shakespeare's plays, the one play that the public often name is Hamlet. Written after Shakespeare's only son had died, Hamlet is about the young titular Prince of Denmark who, having returned from university for his father, the old king's funeral, and his mother's quick marriage to his uncle Claudius, who is now king, discovers that his father was in fact murdered by Claudius. Revenge, love and madness. Hamlet is such an iconic role that many actors' reputations are judged by their performance of the Danish prince. We will look at a scene from Act 5, Scene 1. Hamlet and university friend Horatio are both wandering through the countryside of Denmark. Hamlet has just escaped his uncle's banishment and murder attempt, and he and Horatio have come across a graveyard and given the skull of the former court jester, Yorick.
Let me see. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him. Horatio? Oh, of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne me on his back 1,000 times, and now how abhorred in my imagination it seems. My gorge rises at it. Here hung those lips I have kissed, I know not how oft. And where be your jibes now? Gambols, songs, your flashes of merriment that were wont to set the table on a roll. And no one now to mock your own grinning? Quite chop fallen.
I'll get you to my lady's chamber and tell her, paint an inch thick, to this favour must she come.
Let her laugh at that. Prithee, Horatio, tell me one thing.
What's that, my lord?
Dost thou think Alexander looked of this fashion in the earth?
Even so?
And smelt so?
Even so, my lord?
What base uses we may return, Horatio? Why, may not imagination trace the noble dust of Alexander till he find it stopping a bunghole?
'Twere to consider too curiously to consider so.
No, faith, not a jot. But to follow him thither with modesty enough and likelihood to lead it. As thus, Alexander died, Alexander was buried, Alexander returneth into dust. The dust is earth, and of the earth we make loam. And why of that loam whereto he was converted might they not stop a beer barrel? Imperial Caesar, dead and turned to clay, might stop a hole to keep the wind away. Oh, that earth, which kept the world in awe, should patch a wall to expel the winter's flaw. But soft, aside.
During the scene and throughout the play, Hamlet constantly makes comparisons to the classical worlds of ancient Greece and Rome. It is in Shakespeare's love for the classics that allows us to take you further back in time, back to a world where myths of gods and monsters were believed to be real, back to a time when many of our social structures of political debate, democracy, and drama were developed and founded. The world of Euripides' Medea and the Bacchae. Over 2,000 years ago, in the 6th century BC, in the ancient Greek city-state of Athens, the foundations of modern theatre were created. Theatre and drama grew out of the religious festivals to Dionysus. Dionysus was the god of wine, fertility, and revelry, and this in turn led to performance art and drama becoming central to his worship by his followers. The drama festival had been born. From this classical age, only 32 plays have survived to modern times. Works by the playwrights Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. Out of this trio, Euripides is considered to be one of the greatest. Our first extract from Euripides is from his tragedy play Medea. Medea, after having helped Jason win the Golden Fleece, and after betraying her family and her people in order to help him, now lives with him in Corinth with their family. However, Jason decides to abandon Medea and to marry the daughter of the king of Corinth and take his children with him.
You filthy coward. If I knew any other worse name for such unmanliness, I'd use it. So you've come. You, my worst enemy, come to me. Oh, it's not courage, this looking friends in the face after betraying them. It's not even audacity. It's a disease. The very worst a man can have, pure shamelessness. However, it is as well you came. To say what I have to say will ease my heart. To hear it said will make you wince. I'll begin at the beginning. When you were sent to master the fire-breathing bulls, yoke them and sow the deadly furrow, it was I who saved your life. And that every Greek that sailed with you in the Argo knows. The serpent that kept watch over the golden fleece, coiled round it, fold on fold, unsleeping, it was I who killed it, and so lit the torch for your success. I willingly deceived my father, left my home. With you I came to Iolcus, showing much love and little wisdom. There I put King Pelias to the most horrible of deaths by his own daughter's hands, and ruined his whole house. And in return for this, you have the wickedness to cast me out, to get yourself another wife, even after I had borne you sons. If you had still been childless, I could have pardoned you for hankering after this new marriage, but respect for oaths has gone to the wind. Do you, I wonder, think that the old gods no longer rule, or that new laws are now in force? You must know that you are guilty of perjury to me. My poor right hand, which you so often clasped. My knees, which you then clung to. How we are besmirched and mocked by this man's broken vows, and all our hopes deceived. Come. I will ask your advice as though you were a friend, though I hope no help from you, but still, I'll ask you. I'll expose your infamy. Where now can I turn? Back to my country and to my father's house, which I betrayed to come with you? Or to Iolcus, to Pelias's wretched daughters? What a welcome they would give me that killed their father. Thus it stands. My friends at home now hate me, and I have earned the enmity of those I had no right to hurt. For my reward, you have made me the envy of Hellen women everywhere. A marvellous husband have I, and faithful too in the name of pity. When I am banished, thrown out of the country, without a friend, alone with my forlorn waifs, yes, a shining shame it will be to you, the new-made bridegroom, that your own sons and I, who saved your life, are begging beside the road. Oh, Zeus, why is it you have given us clear signs to tell true gold from counterfeit, but when we need to know bad men from good, the flesh bears no revealing mark?
Towards the end of the play, Medea takes her revenge on Jason's betrayal by killing her two sons. While this act of killing her children is shocking for audiences both then and now, Euripides does not portray Medea doing this as a villainous act, but Instead, as an act of rage born out of the desperation of loss, abandonment, and the betrayal of promises of love. Not only that, but it also shows a woman taking control of her life at a time when women had no rights and no say. For our next extract, we will look at two scenes from Euripides' The Bacchae. One of Euripides' final works, and one that was first performed posthumously in 405 BC, was The Bacchae. In The Bacchae, the god Dionysus has returned to the city of Thebes, the land of his human mother Semele. Dionysus has returned because of two reasons. Firstly, to restore his mother's name, as Agave, his aunt, and the current king's mother has, among others, accused Semele of sleeping not with a god, but with a mortal. And secondly, because Pentheus, the king of Thebes, has banned the worship of Dionysus. In this extract from the Bacchae, Dionysus, who is in disguise, confronts a raging Pentheus. Dionysus has placed all the women of Thebes under a spell and encouraging them all to come to the woodland hills and join his cult.
Untie his hands. I've got him in my nets. He is not fast enough to get away from me. Well, stranger, sees this body of yours is not unsuitable for a woman's pleasure. That's why you've come to Thebes. As for your hair, it's long, which suggests you're no wrestler. It flows across your cheek. That's most seductive. You've a white skin too. You've looked after it, avoiding the sun's rays by staying in the shade. Yet, with your beauty, you chase Aphrodite. But first, tell me something of your family.
That's easy enough, though I'm not boasting. You've heard of Smollis, where flowers grow.
I know it. It's around the town of Sardis.
I'm from there. My homeland is Lydia.
And why do you bring these rituals to Greece?
Dionysus sent me, the son of Zeus.
Ha! Is there some Zeus there who creates new gods?
No, it's the same Zeus who wed Semele. Right here.
And did this Zeus overpower you at night in your dreams, or were your eyes wide open?
I saw him. He saw me. He gave me the sacred rituals.
And what are they like, these rituals of yours?
That information cannot be passed on to men like you. Those uninitiated in the rites of Bacchus.
Do they benefit those who sacrifice?
They're worth knowing, but you're not allowed to hear.
You've avoided that question skillfully, making me want to hear an answer.
The rituals are no friend of any man who's hostile to the gods.
And this god of yours, since you saw him so clearly, what's he like?
He was what he wished to be, not made to order.
Again, you fluently evade my question, saying nothing whatsoever.
Yes, but then a man can seem totally ignorant when speaking to a fool.
Is Thebes the first place you've come to with your god?
All the barbarians are dancing in these rites.
I'm not surprised they're stupider than the Greeks.
In this, they are much wiser, but their laws are very different too.
When you dance these rites, is it at night or during daylight?
Mainly at night. Shadows confer solemnity.
And deceive the women. It's all corrupt.
And can do shameful things in daylight too.
You must be punished for your evil games.
You too! For foolishness, impiety towards the god.
How brash this Bacchant is! How well prepared in using language.
What punishment am I to suffer?
First,
Harsh penalties will you inflict?
if you would listen, first, I'll cut off that delicate hair of yours.
My hair is sacred. I grow it for the god.
Give me that thyrsus in your hand.
This wand I carry is the god's, not mine. You'll have to seize it from me yourself.
We'll lock you up inside. In prison.
The god will personally set me free whenever I so choose.
That only works when around the Bacchae.
He sees my suffering now. And from nearby.
But where is he then? My eyes don't see him.
He is where I am. You don't see him because you don't believe.
Seize him! He's making a fool of Thebes and me.
I warn you, you shouldn't tie me up. I've got my wits about me. You've lost yours.
But I'm more powerful than you. I'll have you put in chains.
You are quite ignorant of why you live, what you do, and who you are.
I am Pentheus, son of Agabe and Echion.
A suitable name. It suggests misfortune.
Lock him up in the adjoining stables. There he'll see nothing but darkness. There you can dance. As for those women, those partners in crime you brought here with you, we'll sell them on or keep them here as slaves working our looms. Won't you stop them beating those drumskins and making all that noise?
I'll go then, for I won't have to suffer what won't occur. But you can be sure of this. Dionysus, whom you claim does not exist, will go after you for retribution after all your insolence. He's the one you put in chains when you treat me unjustly.
Using his powers, Dionysus, after confronting Pentheus and being imprisoned by him, summons an earthquake to destroy the prison Pentheus has thrown him into. Pentheus confronts the freed Dionysus. However, now free, Dionysus starts to use his powers to manipulate the king.
You've heard what I had to say, Pentheus, but still, you're not convinced. Oh, I'm suffering badly at your hands. I say you shouldn't go to war against a god. You should stay calm. Bromius will not let you move his Bacchae from their mountains.
Don't preach to me. You've got out of prison. Enjoy that fact. Or shall I punish you some more?
I'd sooner make an offering to that god than in some angry fit kick at his whip. A mortal going to battle with a god.
I'll sacrifice, all right, with the slaughter of those women just as they deserve. In the forest of Cithaeron.
You'll all run. What a disgrace. To turn your bronze shields round, fleeing the thyrsi of those Bacchic women.
It's useless trying to argue with this stranger. No matter what he does or suffers, he won't shut up.
My lord, there is still a chance to end this calmly.
By doing what? Should I become a slave to my own slaves?
I can bring the women here without the use of any weapons.
I don't think so. You're trying to set me up for one of your tricks again.
What sort of trick? If I want to save you in my own way.
You've made some arrangements, you and your god, so you can always dance your bacchanalian orgies.
Yes, that's true. I have made some arrangements with the god.
You, there, bring me my weapons. And you, no more talk. Keep quiet.
Just a minute. How would you like to gaze upon those women sitting together in the mountains?
Yes. I'd like that. I'd pay for that. In gold. And I'd pay a lot.
Why is that? Why do you desire it so much?
I'd be sorry to see those women drunk.
Would you derive pleasure from looking on, viewing something you find painful?
Yes. I would. If I was sitting in the trees in silence.
But even if you go there secretly, they'll track you down.
You're right. I'll go there openly.
So you're prepared, are you, to make the trip? Shall I lead you there?
Let's go. With all speed. I've got time.
In that case, you must clothe your body in a dress, one made of Eastern linen.
What? I'm not going there as a man. I've got to change myself into a woman.
If they see you as a man, they'll kill you.
Right again. You always have the answer.
Dionysus taught me all these things.
How can I best follow your suggestion?
I'll go inside your house and dress you up.
What? Dress up in a female outfit? I can't do that. I'd be ashamed.
You are still keen to see the Maenads, aren't you?
What sort of clothing would you recommend? How best should I cover up my body?
I'll fix up a long hairpiece for your head.
All right. And what's the next piece of my outfit?
A dress down to your feet and a headband to fit just here around your forehead.
What else? What other things will you provide?
A thyrsus to hold and a dappled fawn skin.
No! I can't dress in women's clothes!
But if you go fighting with these Bacchae, you'll cause bloodshed.
Yes. That's true. So first, we must go up and spy on them.
Hunt down evil by committing evil. That sounds like a wise way to proceed.
But how will I make it through the city without the Thebans noticing me?
We go by deserted streets. I'll take you.
Well, anything is easier to accept than being made a fool of by Bacchic women. Let's go in the house. I'll think about what's best.
As you wish. Whatever you do, I'm ready.
I think I'll go in now. It's a choice. Going with weapons or taking your advice.
My women! That man's now entangled in our net. He'll go to those Bacchae and there he'll die. That will be his punishment. Dionysus, you're not far away. Now it's up to you. Punish him. First, make sure he goes insane with some crazed fantasy. If his mind is strong, he'll not agree to put on women's clothes. But he'll do it if you make him mad. I want him made the laughingstock of Thebes, while I lead him through the city, mincing as he moves along in women's clothing, after he made himself so terrifying with all those earlier threats. Now I'll be off to fit Pentheus into the costume he'll wear when he goes down to Hades, once he's butchered by his mother's hands. He'll come to acknowledge Dionysus, son of Zeus, born in full divinity, most fearful and yet most kind to men.
Finally, and now in total control of Pentheus, Dionysus takes him to the Bacchae cult, who, because of being under a spell, mistake Pentheus for a lion and proceed to rip him apart. The play was a warning about the disastrous consequences of what could happen when humans attempt to deny, or, at the very least, suppress ecstatic transformation and revelry. We hope that this little change of direction to the classics has helped highlight the continued relevance of these plays and in how they have fed and inspired modern theatre practitioners and also the writing of William Shakespeare. We will take you to when two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene, the scene of two star-crossed lovers, Romeo and Juliet. One of the Bard's most popular romantic plays is, of course, Romeo and Juliet. The story is of two long-standing feuding families disrupting the city-state of Verona, eventually causing the tragic ends of the titular Romeo and Juliet. Revenge, love, and a secret marriage force the star-crossed lovers to grow up quickly until a cruel twist of fate causes them to be parted forever. We'll take a look at a scene from Act 2, Scene 2, where, after meeting at a wild party, the two lovers come into contact and confess their passions for one another.
He jests at scars that never felt a wound. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Julia is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill this envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief. That thou, her maid, art far more fair than she, but not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady. Oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eyes discourses, I will answer it. I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in all heaven, having some business to entreat her eyes to twinkle in the spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, and they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame those stars, as daylight doth a lamp. Her eyes in heaven would through the airy region stream so bright, that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her cheek upon her hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek.
Why me?
Oh, she speaks. Oh, speak again, bright angel, for thou art as glorious to the night being o'er my head, as is the winged messenger of heaven, unto the white upturned wandering eyes of mortals that fall back to gaze on him, when he bestrides a lazy pacing clouds that sail upon the bosom of the air.
Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name, or, if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I'll no longer be a Capulet.
Shall I hear more, or shall I speak of this?
'Tis but a name that is my enemy. Thou art thyself, though not a Montague. What's a Montague? It is nor hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man. Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose, by any other name would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title. Romeo, doff thy name, and for that name which is no part of thee, take all myself.
I take thee at thy word. Call me but love, and I'll be new baptized, and henceforth I never will be Romeo.
What man art thou that thus bescreened in night so stumblest on my counsel?
But by a name, I know not how to tell thee who I am. My name, dear saints, is hateful to myself, because it's an enemy to thee. Had I written it, I would tear the word.
My ears have not yet drunk 100 words of that tongue's utterance, yet I know the sound. Art thou not Romeo, and a Montague?
Neither, fair saint, if either thee dislike.
How camest thou hither, tell me, and wherefore? The orchard walls are high and hard to climb, and the place death, considering who thou art, if any of my kinsmen find thee here.
With love's light wings do I perch upon these walls, for stony limits can't hold love out. And what love can do that dares love attempt? Therefore thy kinsmen are no lead to me.
If they do see thee, they will murder thee.
Alack, there lies more peril in thine eye than 20 of their swords. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against their enmity.
I would not for the world they saw thee here.
I have night's cloak to hide me from their sight. And but thou love me? Let them find me here. My life would be better ended by their hate than death prolonged, wanting of thy love.
By whose direction foundst thou out this place?
By love, whose first did prompt me to inquire. He lent me counsel, and I lent him eyes. I am no pilot, yet were thou as far, and that vast shores washed upon further sea, I would adventure for such merchandise.
Thou know'st the mask of night is on my face, Else would a maiden blush bepaint my cheek for that which thou hast heard me speak tonight. Fain would I fell on form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment. Dost thou love me? I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thy word, yet if thou swear'st, thou mayst prove false. At lovers' perjuries they say Jove laughs, O gentle Romeo. If thou dost love, pronounce it faithfully, or if thou think'st I am too quickly won, I'll frown and be perverse and say thee nay, so thou wilt woo, but else not for the world. In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond, and therefore thou mayst think my haviour light, but trust me, gentlemen, I'll prove more true than those that have more cunning to be strange. I should have been more strange, I must confess, but that thou overheardst, ere I was ware, my true love's passion. Therefore pardon me, and not impute this yielding to light love, which the dark night hath so discovered.
Lady, by yonder blessed moon I swear that tips with silver all these fruit tree tops.
Not by the moon, the inconstant moon, that monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable.
What shall I swear by?
Do not swear at all. Or, if thou wilt, swear by thy gracious self, which is the god of my idolatry, and I'll believe thee.
If my heart's dear love.
Now do not swear, although I joy in thee. I have no joy of this contract tonight. It is too rash, too unadvised, too sudden, too like the lightning which doth cease to be ere one can say it lightens. Sweet, good night. This bud of love, by summer's ripening breath, may prove a beauteous flower when we next meet. Good night, good night. As sweet repose and rest come to thy heart as that within my breast.
Oh, wilt thou leave me so unsatisfied?
What satisfaction canst thou have tonight?
The exchange of thy love's faithful vows for mine.
I gave thee mine before thou didst request it, and yet I would it were to give again.
Wouldst thou withdraw it? For what purpose, love?
But to be frank and give it thee again. And yet I wish but for the thing I have. My bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love as deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite. I hear some noise within. Dear love, adieu. Anon, good nurse. Sweet Montague, be true. Stay but a little. I will come again.
Oh, blessed night, I'm afeard. Being in night, oh, this is but a dream. Too flattering sweet to be substantial.
3 words, dear Romeo, and good night indeed. If that thy bent of love be honourable, thy purpose marriage, send me word tomorrow, by one that I'll procure to come to thee, where and what time thou wilt perform the rite, and all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay, and follow thee, my lord, throughout the world. I come anon, but if thou mean'st not well, I do beseech thee, by and by I come, to cease thy suit, and leave me to my grief. Tomorrow will I send.
So thrive my soul.
1,000 times good night.
1,000 times the worst. Won't thy light? Love goes towards love, as schoolboys from their books, but love from love towards school with heavy looks.
for a falconer's voice to lure this tassel gentle back again. Bondage is hoarse and may not speak aloud, else I would tear the cave where echo lies, and make her airy tongue more hoarse than mine with repetition of my Romeo's name.
It is my soul that calls upon my name. How silver sweet sound lovers' tongues by night, like softest music to attending ears.
Romeo,
My dear,
at what o'clock tomorrow shall I send to thee?
at the hour of 9.
I will not fail. 'Tis 20 years till then. I have forgot why I did call thee back.
Let me stand here till thou remember it.
I shall forget to have thee still stand there, remembering how I love thy company.
And I'll still say, to have thee still forgetting any other home but this.
'Tis almost morning. I would have thee gone, and yet no further than a wanton's bird, who lets it hop a little from her hand, like a poor prisoner in his twisted gyves, and with a silk thread plucks it back again, so loving jealous of his liberty.
Oh, I would I were thy bird.
Sweet, so would I. Yet I should kill thee with much cherishing. Good night. Good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night till it be morrow.
Sleep dwell upon thine eyes, and peace in thy breast. Would I were sleep and peace so sweet to rest. Hence will I to my ghostly father sail, his help to crave, my dear hap to tell.
The play's legacy has left us numerous big-budget films, ballets, operas, and contemporary musical adaptations. For its story and its themes of the tragic romance still speak to audiences young and old in different communities and cultures across the world. Now we take you from the sweet Verona air to the stink of the battlefields of France, and where we must once more onto the breach. Whenever the UK has ever gone to war, the play that will always find new relevance is the history play Henry V. Written near 1599, the play shows the young newly crowned King Henry V, who, with England in a state of unrest, must leave his rebellious youth behind and strive to gain the respect of his nobility and people. Henry has laid claim to parts of France and, following an insult from the French prince, has gathered his troops and prepares for a war that he hopes will unite his country, a country that only until recently was beset by civil war. Here we will look at a scene from the beginning of the play's fourth act. It is the night before the next morning's battle, and the English are exhausted and run down after months of campaigning. They talk between themselves, knowing that they will be confronted by a larger and more heavily armoured French force, where certain death likely awaits them. King Henry, wanting to find out how the soldiers truly feel about him and the war, wanders around the army camp in disguise.
Brother John Bates. Is it not the morning which breaks yonder?
I think it be. But we have no great cause to desire the approach of day.
We see yonder the beginning of the day, but I think we shall not see the end of it. Who goes there?
A friend.
Under what captain serve you?
Under Sir Thomas Erpingham.
A good old commander, and a most kind gentleman. I pray you, what thinks he of our estate?
Leaving his men racked upon the sand that looked to be washed off the next tide.
He hath not told his thought to the king.
No, nor is it not me he should. For though I speak it to you, I think the king is but a man as I am. The violet smell to him as it doth to me, the element shows to him as it doth to me. All his senses have but human conditions. His ceremonies laid by. In his nakedness he appears but a man. And though his affections are higher mounted than ours, yet when they stoop with the light wing. Therefore, when he sees reasons of fears as we do, his fears out of doubt be of the same relish as ours are. And yet in reason no man should possess him with any appearance of fear, lest he, by showing it, should dishearten his army.
He may show what outward courage he will, but I believe, as cold a night as 'tis, he could wish himself in Thames up to the neck. And so I would he were, and I buy him at all adventures, so we were quit here.
By my troth, I will speak my conscience of the king. I think he would not wish himself anywhere but where he is.
Then I would he were here alone. So should he be sure to be ransomed, and a many poor men's lives saved.
I dare say you love him not so ill to wish him here alone, howsoever you speak this to feel other men's minds. Methinks I could not die anywhere so contented as in the king's company, with his cause being just and his quarrel honourable.
That's more than we know.
Aye, or more than we should seek after. For we know enough if we know we are the king's subjects. If his cause be wrong, our obedience to the king wipes the crime of it out of us.
Yes, but if the cause be not good, the king himself have a heavy reckoning to make. When all those legs and arms and heads chopped off in battle shall join together at the latter day and cry all, we died at such a place. Some swearing, some crying for a surgeon, some upon their wives left poor behind them, some upon their debts they owe, some upon their children rawly left. I am afeard that there are few that die in a battle. For how can they charitably dispose of anything when blood is their arguments? Now, if these men do not die well, it will be a black matter for the king that led them to it, whom to disobey were against all proportion of subjection.
So if a son that is by his father sent about merchandise do sinfully miscarry upon the sea, the imputation of his wickedness by your rule should be imposed upon his father that sent him.
'Tis certain, every man that dies ill, the ill upon his own head. The king is not to answer it.
I do not desire he should answer for me, and yet I determined to fight lustily for him.
But I myself heard the king say he would not be ransomed.
Aye, he said so to make us fight cheerfully. But when our throats are cut, he may be ransomed, and we ne'er the wiser.
If I live to see it, I will never trust his word after.
You pay him then. That's a perilous shot out of an elder gun, that a poor and private displeasure can do against a monarch. He may as well go about to fan the sun to ice with fanning in his face with a peacock's feather. You'll never trust his word after. Come, 'tis a foolish saying.
Your reproof is something too round. I should be angry with you if the time were convenient.
There'll be a quarrel between us then, if you live.
Oh, I embrace it.
How shall I know thee again?
Give me any gauge of thine, and I will wear it in my bonnet. Then, if ever thou darest acknowledge it, I'll make it my quarrel.
Here's my glove. Give me another of thine.
There.
This will I also wear in my cap. If ever thou come to me and say after tomorrow, this is my glove, by this hand, I will box thee on the ear.
If I ever live to see it, I will challenge it.
Thou darest as well be hanged.
Well, I will do it, though I take thee in the king's company.
Keep thy word. Fare thee well.
Be friends, you English fools, be friends. We have French quarrels enough if you could tell how to reckon.
Indeed. If the French lay 20 French crowns to 1, they will beat us, for they bear them on their shoulders. But it is no English treason to cut French crowns, and tomorrow the king himself will be a clipper. Upon the king lives our lives, our souls, our debts, our careful wives, our children, and our sins lay on the king. We must bear all. Hard condition to win born with greatness, subject to the breath of every fool whose sense no more can feel but his own ringing. What heart's infinite ease must kings neglect that private men enjoy? And what have kings that privates have not too, save ceremony, save general ceremony? And what art thou, thou idle ceremony? What kind of god art thou, that sufferest more of mortal griefs than do thy worshippers? What are thy rents? What are thy comings in? What general ceremony? Show me but thy worth. What is thy soul of adoration? Art thou aught else but place, degree, and form, creating awe and fear in other men, wherein thou art less happy being feared than they in fearing? What drink'st thou oft, instead of homage sweet, but poisoned flattery? Be sick, great greatness, and bid thy ceremony give thee cure. Think'st thou the fiery fever will go out with titles blown from adulation, or will it give place to flexure and low bending? Or canst thou, when thou commandst the beggar's knee, command the health of it? No, thou proud dream, that place so suddenly with a king's repose. I am a king that finds thee, and I know 'tis not the balm, the sceptre and the ball, the sword, the mace, the crown imperial, the intertissued robe of gold and pearl, the fast title running for the king, the throne he sits on, nor the tide of pomp that beats upon the high shore of this world. No, not all these thrice gorgeous ceremony, not all these laid in bed majestical can sleep so soundly as the wretched slave, who, with a body filled and vacant mind, gets laid to rest or crammed with distressful bread. Never sees horrid night, the child of hell, but like a lackey from the rise to set, sweats in the eye of Phoebus, and all night sleeps in Elysium. Next day after dawn doth rise and help Hyperion to his horse, and follow so the ever-running years of profitable labour to his grave. And but the ceremony, such a wretch, winding up days with toil and nights with sleep, at the forehand advantage of a king. The slave, member of the country's peace enjoys it, but in gross parade, little what watch the king keeps to maintain the peace, whose hours the peasant pest advantages.
After this scene, King Henry gives a rousing speech to the soldiers and his generals, and, against the immeasurable odds, they defeat the superior French army. The battle goes down in history, for this was the famous Battle of Agincourt. However, despite Henry's victory, it will turn out to be a hollow one, for only a few years later he would die, leaving behind an infant son and a regency council to govern England until King Henry VI comes of age. Eventually, this regency council ends up losing France and, along with Henry VI's weak rule, starts a bloody civil conflict in England that will come to be known as the Wars of the Roses. Now we must away from the battlefield and enter the world of the legal courts and of politics. In Shakespeare's time, Italy was the heart of the Renaissance movement that was sweeping across Europe. The Renaissance was a period of re-examination of the way people looked at art and poetry, music and fashion, and of course, the art of politics and power. Shakespeare demonstrates the power of persuasive argument and justice through two plays, The Merchant of Venice and Julius Caesar. The Merchant of Venice's plot focuses on the titular merchant Antonio borrowing money from the Jewish moneylender Shylock to help his friend Bassiano marry the rich Portia. When Antonio's financial losses means he's unable to pay back the money, as part of the deal, Shylock demands a pound of his human flesh to pay the debt. After her wedding to Bassanio, Portia heads to Antonio's hearing, disguised as a legal representative, where she is determined to use her oratory skills to persuade both the court and Shylock out of taking the pound of flesh.
The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives, and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throned monarch better than his crown. His sceptre shows the force of his temporal power, the attribute to awe and majesty, wherein doth sit the dread and fear of kings. But mercy is above this sceptred sway. It is enthroned in the heart of kings. It is an attribute to God himself, and earthly power doth then show like as gods when mercy seasons justice. Therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice, none of us should see salvation. We do pray for mercy, and that same prayer doth teach us all to render the deeds of mercy. I have spoke thus much, to mitigate the justice of thy plea, which if thou follow, the strict court of Venice must needs give sentence against that merchant there.
Portia's skills in finding the loophole allows Frantonio to survive and to repay his debt to Shylock. Now we travel to ancient Rome and to Shakespeare's tragedy Julius Caesar. The Republican senators Brutus, Cassius, and several other conspirators have just assassinated the Roman dictator Julius Caesar. In this scene, set during Caesar's funeral, the Caesar loyalist Mark Antony has just persuaded the conspirators to let him speak to the people of Rome, just after Brutus's flat and factual speech. However, Antony uses his speech to appeal to the emotional side of the crowd.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it was so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously hath Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honourable man, or so are they all honourable men, come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. But he hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? When that the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honourable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him with a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure he is an honourable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus has spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. So what cause withholds you then to mourn for him? O judgment! Thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is there in the coffin with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me.
Mark Antony has successfully manipulated the crowd into hating the conspirators for the assassination, and from there, he and Caesar's grandnephew and heir Octavius are able to take control of Rome and kill all the conspirators on claims of revenge and justice. By the end of the play, all the conspirators have been hunted down and murdered, save Brutus, who ends up taking his own life with the very dagger he used to stab Caesar with. From the concept of accountability and the legalities of the courts to the powers of public speaking, we have seen how an individual can use the skills of oratory to help them in pushing for their own brand of justice. And now, we take a handy walking stick to help us keep steady, slow our pace, and put our glasses on, for we are entering the 6th age in our life's journey, old age. Shakespeare's portrayal of old age in his writing is always shown with a strong pathos at the centre, even with such heavily contrasting characters as the tragic King Lear and the lovable rogue Sir John Falstaff. In King Lear, we see a man towards the end of his life who has made a rash decision to give away his kingdom, while still expecting the same respect that he thinks old age has conferred on him. As everything starts to slip away from him, he starts to lose his mind. Rejected and betrayed by his 2 daughters and banishing his 3rd daughter, and the only daughter who truly loved him, Lear has a complete mental breakdown, cursing the heavens and wishing for all the elements to destroy him and destruction to those who have wronged him and abandoned him.
Blow, winds, and crack your cheeks. Rage, blow. You cataracts and hurricane or spout, till you have drenched our steeples, drowned the cocks. You sulphurous and thought-executing fires, vaunt couriers to oak-cleaving thunderbolts, singe my white head, and thou, all shaking thunder. Smite flat the thick rotundity of the world, crack nature's moulds and germ, and spill at once that make ungrateful man. Rumble thy bellyful, spit fire, spout rain, nor rain, wind, thunder, fire are my daughters. I tax not you, you elements, with unkindness. I never gave you kingdom, called you children. You owe me no subscription. Then let fall your horrible pleasure, here I stand, your slave, a poor, weak, infirm, and despised old man. But yet I call you servile ministers that have with 2 pernicious daughters joined your high engendered battles gainst the head so old and white as this. Oh, 'tis foul. No, I will be the pattern of all patience. I will say nothing. Let the great gods that keep this dreadful path o'er our heads find out their enemies now. Tremble, thou wretch, that hast within thee undivulged crimes unwhipped of justice. Hide thee, thou bloody hand, thou perjured and thou similar man of virtue that art incestuous. Caitiff to pieces shake, that under covert and convenient seeming are practised on man's life, close pent-up guilts. Rive your concealing countenance, and cry these dreadful summoners grace. I am a man more sinned against than sinning. My wits begin to turn. Come on, my boy. How does my boy? Out cold. I'm cold myself. The art of our necessities is strange. can make vile things precious. Come. Your hovel. Poor fool in there. I have one part left in my heart that's sorry yet for thee.
Lear is eventually found and his mind is mended. However, this being a tragedy, Lear is forced to endure the tragic outcome of the rash decisions that he set in motion at the beginning of the play. Shakespeare, however, shows us another old man, and a completely different type of old age, in the hefty shape of Sir John Falstaff. One of Shakespeare's most beloved characters, Falstaff is a man of many contradictions, ranging from gluttony, intelligence, cowardliness, lover of life, and all those in between. He is, as Orson Welles said, an embodiment of the joys of merry old England when even villainy was innocent. In the plays Henry IV Parts 1 and 2, we see Falstaff being friends with the young Prince of Wales who would go on to become King Henry V, leading the youth into misrule and happy abandonment of his duties. We will now see Falstaff revelling in and explaining to the audience the joys of sherry sack and how he truly feels about the prince and his family.
I would you had but the wits twere better than your dukedom. Good faith, this same young sober-blooded boy doth not love me, nor a man cannot make him laugh. But that's no marvel, he drinks no wine. There's never none of these demure boys come to any proof. The thin drink doth so overcool their blood, and making many fish meals that they fall into a kind of male green sickness, and then when they marry, they get wenches. They're generally fools and cowards, which some of us should be too, but for inflammation. A good sherry sack hath a twofold operation in it. It descends me into the brain, dries me there all the foolish and dull and curdy vapours which environ it, makes it apprehensive, quick, forgettive, full of nimble, fiery and delectable shapes which delivered o'er the voice, the tongue, which is the birth. Excellent wit. The second component of your excellent sherris is the warming of the blood, which before, cold and settled, left the liver white and pale. But the sherris warms it, and makes it coarse from the inwards to the parts extreme. It illumineth the face, which is a beacon, gives warning to all the rest of this little kingdom. Man to arm, and then all the vital commoners and petty and spirits do muster me all to their captain, the heart, who, great and puffed up with this retinue, doth any deed of courage. And this valour comes of sherries. So that skill in the weapon is nothing without sack, for that sets it to work, and learning a mere hoard of gold kept by a devil till sack commences it, and sets it in act in use. Hereof comes it Prince Harry is valiant, for the cold blood he did naturally inherit of his father. He hath, like lean, sterile, and bare land, manured, husbanded, and tilled, with excellent endeavour of drinking good, and good store of fertile sherries. That he is become so hot and valiant. If I had 1,000 sons, the first humane principle I would teach them should be to forswear thin potations, and to addict themselves to sack.
As stated earlier, Shakespeare always places great pathos into his older characters, and Falstaff is no exception. Instead of the rich, merry old age that Falstaff hopes for, he is instead rejected and banished by the young prince who has now become King Henry V. By the end of the play, Falstaff is left heartbroken and left to die, poor and old, in relative obscurity. And now, we must, like all things, come to the next stage, the stage of conclusion. Everything we do, including life itself, must have a conclusion. Everything must end, be it a job, an education, a magic trick, or a story. Shakespeare was no exception, and he must have felt this, which is why, near the end of one of his very final plays, he wrote this speech for the character of Prospero in The Tempest. Our revels now are ended.
These, our actors, as I foretold you, were all spirits.
And are melted into air, into thin air.
And like the baseless fabric of this vision.
The cloud-capped towers, the
gorgeous palaces,
the solemn temples,
the great globe itself. Yea, all which it inherit shall dissolve.
And like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on.
And our little life is rounded with sleep.
Many who have read this magical speech and performed it believe that, much like the play itself, this was Shakespeare's own personal farewell to his beloved audiences, as not long after, he would retire to Stratford, leaving the world of theatre forever. Sadly, like Prospero, our revels now are ended. This has been a project that everyone involved has been proud to work on. I hope you have enjoyed it too, and ask, if you can, please donate to our NHS fundraising page in the link in the description below, as every penny donated goes towards helping and supporting the staff, nurses and doctors who have worked for over a year in combating COVID-19. And if we keep helping one another, then soon we'll be able to sit together once again in an auditorium and watch worlds of make-believe and magic come to life. Till then, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you in person.